I'm Jeremy Greer.
And I'm Gary Butterfield.
And this is Days of Future Cast, the podcast where we talk about X-Men everything. This week, we are talking about an X-Men video game. Almost. Marvel video game. Can't really call it an X-Men video game when there's only 2 X-Men in there, I guess. But we're still... There's 3?
You get Scarlet Witch. She's X-Men associated.
Yeah, I guess. But most of the X-Men hate her, though. Like, they're not...
Yeah.
She's not popular around the mutant population for a pretty strong reason. So we wrapped up a pretty major arc in the Uncanny X-Force series written by Rick Remender, and we did that right before the holidays, and then over the holidays both Gary and I dipped into Marvel's Midnight Suns from Firaxis, the game that I think, Gary, like you and I have been asking for probably the last 10 years or something. Like
kind of manifested.
Yeah. I feel like just this us talking about it on this podcast made this happen. And it's a superhero tactics game, which from the people who made XCOM, which are the perfect people to do that. And I guess so. We're gonna talk about the game. We're gonna talk about the mechanics. We both finished it. We'll probably talk about spoilers if that's something you care about towards the end. I will say,
can I put a stake in the sand real quick?
Sure.
I don't think people listening to this should care about spoilers.
I don't think so either. I was just about to say that. Like, it doesn't matter.
It's not like the. I think that we both grew to appreciate some of the fluff and story and character stuff a little bit in this game. It'd be lying or exaggerating to say it's the draw, and it would be lying or exaggerating to say it matters very much, I think. This is not a story, it's a pretty stock story, and you can tell where it's going. It does not feel like the twists and turns are that meaningful.
No, not at all.
At least to me. This is not a well plotted game.
And I don't necessarily think it needs to be. And I think that's one of the big things that it makes this game so weird is it tries to be so many things that it doesn't necessarily need to be. And it's remarkable. The part that I wanted from the game is as good as it is, to be honest with you. Because even starting from when they announced this, I was very excited, and then they were like, "It's card based," and I was really, I don't know if you remember at the time, that was before I started playing Slay the Spire. That was before Monster Train came out, or before I touched Monster Train. I was I did not like deck builders at that time. I just not, they had not clicked with me. So when they, I saw superhero tactics, yes, card builder. Oh, you fucking serious? I was so fucking bummed.
They did a little misdirection on you because they were like, deck builder, and you're like, oh, and then that part actually owns, and they're like, plus Fire Emblem, plus Persona, Persona. Oh shit, bam, left hook, because that is the part that is less good.
Yeah,
in there, the deck building stuff, they did. One of the things I love this game. This is my favorite new game that came out of 2022, other than Elden Ring, of course, and they did such a good job. I admire it so much. Not only is it tactically they did the thing where every character is viable and interesting. They've integrated the deck building into the tactics really well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It does not feel tacked on even a little bit to me. It feels no, this is integral. This makes sense. It's intuitive. This is a really, really great system. You could do it without it being a deck builder. You could do it with these just being abilities and maybe you have action points or something like that, and it would still be good. But this is neat. It's a novel and cool approach, and it's them not just doing XCOM again.
That was what I was just about to say is I appreciate that they took a risk on and just didn't literally clone XCOM, which I think would have been something relatively easy for them to do. You could make Wolverine's claw attack be so many action points, and you could, make this a little bit more strategic in your movements across the map. But instead they did this card thing. And I think when they did that, everything became a little bit more wacky in a good way. You got to do these huge splashy attacks. You got to do these cool moves. The arena became they're a little bit more confined than you're used to on an XCOM map, but they're, I think, much better for that. We're just in a room beating up some superheroes just like we would in a comic book.
They're more dynamic. There's more things to interface with in the room, and they integrate that really well, which is a secret superhero thing. Superhero video games use the environment.
Yes.
Yeah, I think back to Freedom Force and think about Hulk Ultimate Destruction and stuff. superheroes are always grabbing telephone poles and whacking dudes.
The most recent Spider-Man game, like that dude can pick up anything around him and sling it at a villain. So
yeah, it's a cool thing that superheroes can do. By not just reskinning an XCOM, which, like, I want to be clear too, I would have played it if they reskinned an XCOM.
Oh yeah,
you know, like I love XCOM. I'm not going to turn down a new XCOM, but by not just reskinning that, by having this focus be on melee and be on these tighter arenas. There's no cover system in this, like that's not a thing. Things like that, like they really did feel like they made something new, and kind of carve their own space in this like tactical, gamescape or what have you.
And you mentioned every character being like interesting and viable, and I want to give some points to it just for making all of the characters behave relatively differently from one another. Like it would be, I think almost all of the, what is there, like 13 playable characters, including the hunter, 14 playable characters. All of them are significantly enough different, and they mix and match with each other really, really well that it's so much fun just to bring different crews out on missions and see like how they interact together. Using magic to gather enemies together, and then Scarlet Witch to do her AoE stuff around her is really fun. Like that stuff, it ends up working really, really well, and you feel like it puts the gamer brain, like it makes you feel gamer smart.
Yeah, which is my favorite thing to feel in a video game.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want to come up with new synergies and stuff like that. It's why I love Darkest Dungeon, like love all those games. It's not that there's no overlap. Like this is a DPS character, this is a tank. Like it's still a video game, but they work in really different ways, which they didn't have to do. They could have. I compare it to something like Fire Emblem, where there are characters that are basically like, this is basically this dude. He's just a better version. And then you in Midnight Suns, you compare something like Captain Marvel to Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
They're both tanks, but they work really differently.
Yes.
Captain Marvel is all about putting all the attention on her and focusing on her to get her, mode switch to get her armor. Whereas Captain America is about blocking for his opponents and giving them armor, as opposed to. Yeah. So making his teammates more viable. He's like it's a team armor buff, which allows you to be a team player, use everyone else as well. There are two different approaches to it. And then you get Wolverine, who's also a tank, who has a totally different approach, which is about taking damage and then healing it. Things like that. Like it's neat. It like undeniably neat. Like every different from a game design space, it uses it takes these archetypes. Like you want to have a DPS character, you want to have a control character. How many ways can we do this? We want a character based around this mechanic. How many different ways? And they just do an excellent job of that. Like best in their field shit.
And they also like relate it back to the hero character really, really well. So you get stuff like
they do in the comics.
Yeah, Captain America providing armor for his teammates feels really realistic. Carol Danvers powering up and shooting giant beams of lasers that take out multiple enemies seems very realistic. Spider-Man having a focus on environmental attacks and moving around the map a lot feels very true to the Spider-Man comics. Like it's just all really well thought out in a way that I was not expecting. Like when the reviews started trickling in for the game, when the first impressions, people were surprised by how good it was, but they were like, this is a weird combination of things. But all of that I think is just the stuff that surrounds the main core combat of the game. That engine is so fucking fun to mess around in. It's so fun to play with. Like it's just great.
Yeah, I would do it. So the way the structure of the game works for people who are listening to this who haven't played it, you have story missions and you have side missions to get resources and stuff. And you have to do a side mission between each story mission, but you can do as many as you want. You have to do at least one.
Mm-hmm.
And these are just randomly generated, like Radiant Quest, basically. Go here, stop this. Go here, protect this, etc. I was doing tons of those just because I didn't want to advance the story because I liked engaging in the combat.
Yes.
So much.
Yeah.
You still get a little bit of story. You still get the playdate stuff, which we'll talk about in between missions. But I just wanted to make my guys more powerful and play in the sandbox to see what more it offered. What these and it fulfills that promise.
Yeah,
really, really well. If you do that, you can spend a lot of time doing that. And I'm not full. Like they're doing these DLC characters. There's gonna be new story content. I want it. if they do, there's a big sequel teaser at the end. Like, I want it. I will play this series. Like, it's onboarded me onto a series, which it's been a minute since that's happened.
I will I looked today because the Deadpool DLC was going to come out this month, and I was like, I just should go ahead and buy the season pass. And I balked at it because it was like $50, but I'm pretty much just going to buy the thing. I think I'm just going to go ahead and commit to it because like I want the sequel to be made. Like I want to have more of the game, and like what other way can I vote besides my dollars? But like I'm definitely going to play all of the DLCs. Like even if I end up waiting like for all of them to come out and I cram all of them at the same time or something. I don't know if I'll like play through one
or incorporate them in a New Game Plus or something like
or
that.
do that. Yeah. But you're right. That sandbox, like just going into it and seeing how the characters work together, playing around with the different cards, but the different systems, the different abilities is how the game refers to your cards. And because it's, we talk about deck building, you get a wide variety of abilities for all of your characters, for all of the heroes, and it's up to you to kind of select which ones you want to bring on the field, and they can have like dramatically different effects in the battlefield, and you really have to like think about that stuff. And if anything, I feel like that's where the game falls short a little bit. I wish like the management side of that was a little easier from a UI UX perspective, because I want to be able to save decks, I want to be able to quickly remove extra cards, I want to like all of that kind of clutter stuff. Like the UI stuff is real basic.
It's not super good. Like being able to save a build would be huge. Being able to quickly access like everything that's not equipped, or mark multiple cards for scrapping.
Yes.
That are not equipped. Like there are things like that are no-brainers, right? That hopefully will be addressed in the sequel.
Well, and that
would have made a really big difference.
You can access all the cards that you don't have equipped, but you can't tell. Like you can't sort them by hero. You can't like filter them for like, it's just this real like
you can
basic.
filter them by type.
Yeah.
You might be able to filter them by hero, but it doesn't includes like really important information. So like if you have an extra, the way that upgrades in this work is you have to have 2 copies of a card. It should be very clear, and it might say somewhere on there, but it should be clearer like, hey, this is your second copy of something, an upgrade's available. And then you should be able to do it from that menu.
Yes.
Without having to go to the training yard or whatever. Like, yes, it breaks the fiction, but I don't care at all.
Yes.
About that. Like, I would have much rather just done that from a menu. That's intentional. Like, they're moving away from that. That's how you would have done it in XCOM. They wanted to have a stronger metaphor and have a stronger, like, fluff over this.
Yeah, if anything, that's the big thing that I miss from XCOM is just having that like zoomed out map and the ability to do everything from one side. And that gets into part of the game that I think I don't know if they were mandated or if they just had the idea and they ran with it, but this like the part that like the open world quote unquote open world exploration, Metrovania exploration based
the adventure game.
Like
the soft adventure game.
Which involves like the cycle every day where you wake up in the morning, you go on a mission, or you wake up in the morning, you process your loot from the previous day, which feels real scummy because it's a real like loot box type interface, even though there's no money being exchanged, but it just feels like I bought a loot box in Overwatch or something. And then you're going from
you were gifted a loot box.
Yeah, exactly. And you're going from like little spots in the 3D from one room to another in a 3D environment to do all of your daily stuff, and it just becomes monotonous after like the 6th or 7th time you do it. Like all of the magic was worn off, and I was just like, I wish I could talk to Iron Man in my menu at this point. Like,
there are people who I think that is a gamer psychographic thing. Like I agree with you. That's what I want as well. There are people who are really deeply comforted by that daily rhythm thing, like that Animal Crossing, like I get up and do my chores rhythm of a game. Like it's, again, I'm not saying you gotta hand it to it. Like I also got sick of it and I don't like it. I just know that there are people who love it. I think it, and when you say like you're not sure if that stuff was mandated, I think it wasn't, and because I was wrestling with that too. I think that this was intentional. I think they're trying to stretch their wings. And I think the reason why I think that's the case is because the lore stuff, like the things that relate to comics, go so deep in it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they really did want to like give players the chance to hang out with Wolverine, because they cared about Wolverine. They knew a lot about Wolverine. There's a lot of like deep cuts. As a comic fan, there are weird lore. Like you unlock an ecstatic sweater in this. I ended with a Cyclops was right shirt.
I am so mad at you about that because I've never unlocked that or the Magneto was right shirt.
No.
I don't know.
It's incredibly ugly camo pants with the Cyclops is right shirt.
I'm genuinely wondering. I haven't looked it up, but I was wondering because I know you played. We haven't talked about the creative character, but you played the dude version and I played the chick version.
Yes.
I'm just wondering if they surely they didn't gender lock the Cyclops was right shirt.
Yeah, ladies don't care about Cyclops.
Yeah.
We've done research.
That'd be very curious. That'd be very funny.
No women think Cyclops is right. This is a dumb dude thing.
But you're absolutely right. Like all of the deep comic book lore, like the references. Like there's a really, really funny Stiltman reference in this, which I think is great. It's just a one-off. There's just really, really interesting things like that just buried in the game. So like whoever was doing the writing was like super into this.
So the other half of it, real quick, and I don't mean to cut you off, but like the important part of that's the other half is the person who's doing the writing was also writing for an audience that they assumed did not know about it. So you get this, like the writer, the World Bible person clearly knew their stuff, but then you have characters being like, yeah, that reminds me of my origin. and then just saying their origin, like shit that every comics fan knows.
Yeah.
It ends up being kind of a weird, uneasy piece, because like for me, there was the Cyclops is right sweater and I'm like, hell yeah, dude. That references a specific storyline arc in that character. Ecstatics, nobody remembers Ecstatics. That's awesome. But then you also have like Blade explaining his origin to me, like, I'm not even a Blade guy. I know what happened to Blade.
Yeah.
Many times over. Like, and just Spider-Man being like, yeah, there was a radioactive spider. I'm like, holy shit, dude. Like, reminds me of that tweet that's like, I'll only go see the new Spider-Man movie if they finally explain how he got his powers.
Yeah. What happened to mom and dad Wayne? What happened to those guys?
Yeah, God, I cannot wait to find out what happened to Batman's parents. That kind of shit. It ends up feeling like a really uneasy balance, but I think it's the reason why I think that story stuff was intentional and not mandated is because it feels very sincere.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if it worked, but it feels genuine to me.
Yeah, I think it was overall just incredibly overwritten. Like you and I joked a lot about these being the most insecure superheroes we've ever met in our entire lives, and it's because you live with them for so long. And I think like it takes so long to finish the social links or whatever you want to call them, finish leveling up those dudes to the point where like they're cool with you, because that doesn't really start happening until like the 4th or 5th level, which is probably 15 or 20 hours into the game. And up until that point, they're just like balls of insecure anxiety, and you just have to baby these magical beings from outer space.
Babies. Like, and the world is ending.
Yeah,
and they're just worried about whether Hulk still likes them. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. The world's fucking ending. Grow up. Damn it, Iron Man.
And some of it
I need you to be the big boy.
And some of it really works. Yeah. Like when you talk to Magic, and Magic has really hung up for the game on, because there's a very early like set piece where you guys have to like leave Scarlet Witch behind, and this like weird universe that they've created, her and Scarlet Witch are like best bros, and she's like, we betrayed our teammate, like we have to go fix this, and she's pissed off, and that works really, really well. And then you mentioned Iron Man, and Iron Man just makes like 4 mistakes in this, and that's all he can think of constantly is trying to just tell you about all of his mistakes in the wordiest way possible. And don't even get me started on Doctor Strange, who just is...
Dude, I got so sick of Doctor Strange whining about his house getting blown up. Like, imagine a Star Wars property, just to put this, because there are tons of people who just don't like Marvel shit. Maybe some of them are still listening to the show. But like, I try to compare it to other big franchises. Imagine if like you played a game where you could finally hang out with Darth Vader and all he did was complain about the Death Star being blown up.
Yes.
Like, he's just like, I'm so sad that my house got blown up. It meant so much to me.
Every time I saw that fucking, little blue icon above Doctor Strange's head, I was like, here we go again. I'm just so fucking sick of
He fucking sucks. It's strange how much they differed, because there were people who I was pretty happy to talk to. Like there's a degree of characters. Like Magic was pretty interesting consistently.
Yes.
Like, I like Magic in this game a lot. Weirdly, like Iron Man, as much as he was obnoxious, I end up liking the arc he goes on. But you couldn't, give me money to talk to Doctor Strange in this. Like, he fucking sucked. He was real boring. There's a wide variety of interest levels with these people. Like, Blade's real fun. I think Blade's performance is really good.
Blade is absolutely hilarious. But like on the flip side of that, Robbie Rees, who I think is like an okay character, just like to me was just like, oh, you're just like a teenage boy with problems, and I have no interest in talking to you about them. Like I'm just not interested in this.
You got to grow up when you become Ghost Rider.
Yeah,
at least a little bit. And it's funny because it's such a balanced thing. Like that's the Marvel secret, right? Is that these are real people. Was the difference between Marvel and DC back in the 60s. That's the Stan Lee thing. Like Spider-Man has problems, Superman doesn't. They just went too far with it. Like the problems are too relatable and they just can't focus on any one of them. And it's a volume thing, like 14 people all coming to you with their problems at once.
Yes.
Is really intense. Getting gang therapied.
I think if you had limited all of those conversations to like a 5 to 10 hour video game, like I wouldn't have been as worn out with it. But like, this is a pretty lengthy game. This is like probably 25 to 30 hours, depending on how long you spend doing some side stuff and exploring around. And if you're trying to get them to, level 5, you were spending a lot of time talking to them and doing quests for them and things. And you just get worn the fuck out with it. I think everybody did a really good performance. I didn't find out till, almost the end of the game that the chick that voices Nico was actually the chick that played Nico
the Runaway show
in the TV show. Yeah, which is put her in the MCU already because she was probably the best part of that show. So.
No, I still have not seen that show. I'm told I shouldn't by multiple people. Yeah. It's okay.
It's all right.
Yeah, it's all right. There were like super generally pretty good performances that I think everyone did there. There's a funny bit where like we talk about everybody being insecure and doing these getting their levels up and everything. One thing I really like about it is it's got the Dragon Age like you put gifts in to build up a meter thing, but it's almost painfully comically chaste. Like it is. I keep wanting to say dating sim elements, but it is a Gary game in that it is like absolutely like sexless.
Yes.
As possible. Like the most you get is by fulfilling everything, you get like Blade and Captain Marvel to talk about holding hands.
And they're embarrassed. And they're embarrassed when you find them doing that.
They're like, oh, I don't know if she likes me. And I'm like, fuck yeah, dude. Your mom was sexually assaulted by vampires. Like, what's going on here? It's really, really gentle in that respect. So it ends up kind of feeling like Andy Griffith's show.
Yes.
Stuff to me. Like, going fishing with Doctor Strange and just being like, well, how do you hold up with being the Sorcerer Supreme? It's hard. It's not always easy, I tell you. But I sure do like this ancient, book of magic you gave me. Plus 10 points.
I almost think it's to its detriment though. Like I don't want to see. I'm very anti like Mass Effect watching two 3D models like bump and grind it with each other.
You don't like watching two real dolls?
Yeah,
kind of roll over one another and grope.
But like it feels like there's elements of this, especially with Magic and with Scarlet Witch, that seemed like they could have had a relationship built into the game with the main character. Because it gets very flirty at times, but it never like goes that extra moment where like you hook up or you go on a date or you express feelings or really anything. Like nothing happens. You just become like really, really good friends. And I don't know, like I didn't necessarily want like to be able to date everybody. But I wouldn't have minded some of that being sprinkled in just for flavor, and to give a little bit more player choice or whatever. I think that would have been interesting. I still want it to be relatively chaste though. I still only want it to be holding hands in the courtyard. But yeah, I don't.
I just totally missed my mute on my cough. By the way,
You're
I
good.
hit mute like afterwards. I just saw that totally showed up on the waveform.
You're totally fine.
There. Oh no, it came through. It's just on the recording. So muting actually does nothing. Because you're still going to get the recording with all my coughs. I never even thought about that. I'm muting just Discord.
Yeah. I'm marking all of your coughs so I can just go back through and clip it out like it's no big deal. I do that with my coughs all the time, so it's second nature at this point.
I should stop muting them on Discord so you know where they're at.
I guess so.
I muted some of them on Discord, thinking I was being courteous, and I wasn't. I was thinking of cold recording. Sorry, dude.
They're fine. You're good. Apologize to the listeners, not me. I won't have to listen to them.
Yeah, there's a lot of coughs going on. I'm sick.
I almost wish that there was at least like a romance option or a couple of romance options, and I feel like the only reason they didn't is because you get a little weird if you have a custom character that the player can create, and then all of a sudden you hit like Magic is gay or Blade is gay, right? And you can't have that.
Or if Iron Man is canonically dating the hunter.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. I agree with you in terms of it being a game. I just it wrapped around for me the same way that like the Insecurity did, where it just became funny.
Yes.
At a certain point. Like I agree with you that I think it would probably be better, but it just ended up being so quaint and like down homey that it ended up making me laugh. Like when you start kind of flirting with Scarlet Witch and they're like, no, just kidding, we're just really great friends. It made me laugh. Like I was like, yeah, boy, the people who are like the MCU is totally sexless. They got nothing on Midnight Suns.
They got nothing on this game.
The MCU is entirely like a smoldering bodice ripper in comparison to this.
Blade having just the world's most like teenage boyhood innocent crush on Carol Danvers is hilarious, especially because there's a line fairly early on when you're talking to him, and he's telling you about things from his past, and he talks about the woman that was killed by vampires, and he says something to the extent of, me and her used to travel around the world making love. And I was just like,
yeah. We used to make love. And then the vamps came.
Like,
shit, man, vamps got you. It's all of that stuff. Like, it's not good. It's not additive to the game. It just wrapped around to being funny.
And I think that if anything will put off like video game nerds, it's that stuff, because like
100%.
It goes on for so long. There
are so many fucking words in this
game.
Oh
my god, dude! You said it very early on. Like the game teaches you when to know when to skip dialogue. But like I found myself, by the time I found the skip button, I was just like, I don't want to just listen to these people talk anymore. Like just give me the option so that they're just staring at each other and like not speaking. I could just read the dialogue. Like it was exhausting by the end, especially so part of the game is obviously like creating these friendships and doing activities with them, and then there's a second piece to this where you're exploring your like home base area. So you're in like an abbey, and then there's this like huge piece of land around it, and it is full of places to hang out, quote unquote havens to hang out with all of your people. It's filled with like collectibles that you can pick up, which are used for crafting, which we'll get into in a few minutes. But it's also like got some mysteries to it, which is what the game uses to describe them. And like you go on like little miniature quests to get powers so that you can explore more of the world. And a lot of it has to do with like Agatha Harkness and the hunter's existence as 300 years ago.
Your mom and your two surrogate parents.
Your mom and the caretaker and Scarlet Witch and all of this stuff. And it just drones on fucking forever. It's an enormous amount of text to get through, a plot and story of people just telling you about things that happen. It never shows you any of it. Like it's just a head telling you that stuff happened back in the day, and it's just exhausting.
It's pretty powerfully exhausting. Like, and what a bummer thing about it is that getting those little powers to unlock parts of the world all come with a really cool, fun combat challenge.
Yes.
To do it. And that you can say a lot of things bad about Midnight Suns, but it's not unintegrated. So like doing this friendship stuff really matters. You want to do it to power the tactics part of the game. Doing this exploring stuff really matters. Like you get really meaningful rewards. So it's not like it's an afterthought. It's just there's too much of it.
Yeah, it's just way too much of it. Like and you're right. Like it's like if you started this game over from scratch, as somebody who had played the game before, I would know that I have to go do all of that stuff over again. Like I would be required to do it in order to get the stuff that I want towards the end of the game, and that it would be infuriating.
I think that's why they got New Game Plus.
Yeah, it's got to be,
so you can not do that. Like, because I eventually will play this game again, I'm sure, because the tactics are just too fun, and there's characters I didn't spend very much time with, and I want to see how they work. And there are characters you unlock really late in the game. Like you get the Hulk very late. He's got cool concepts, but you only get him for a couple of missions.
Yeah.
So I want to see what the Hulk is like when you get all his stuff. If so, I'm going to do a New Game Plus, skipping every bit of dialogue, and not doing any of the crafting or world exploring because I already have, and because that stuff is pretty tedious.
Mm-hmm.
There are like 10 different kinds of currency in this game that you deal with to craft new cards and upgrade your cards and stuff. And it is exhausting and video gamey.
It's like if it was the thing that gets me, I can almost handle like the different kinds of essences for creating different kinds of cards instead of just having like card dust, which they should just have card dust, and I can acquire large quantities of card dust instead of like heroic essence, but skill essence and all that stuff. Like just give me the one thing. But there's one currency called gloss that's in this game that is just the most infuriating thing in the world to me, because they have built like a bunch of the stuff that you find throughout this like quasi open world. When you open a chest, most of the things that you get are costumes or color palettes for costumes, or I should just say color palettes for costumes, not actual costumes. And it's really, really it is just the biggest bummer in the world when you see like, oh, that's a cool like yellow and black color palette. Let me go check that out. And you go to the hero and you go to the costume and you go to the yellow and black, and it's like, oh, you need 300 gloss to unlock this. Like, I just found it in a chest. Like, why couldn't you?
It has the you buy it twice problem.
Yeah, it's so that, like, fucking aggravating.
12 has like at a certain point in the game, I had more gloss than I could ever spend. Like my gloss levels, and you can spend it on like so the gloss is the currency that you just use for cosmetics. It's for stuff that doesn't matter in the game. So like that's where you buy costumes. It's also where you like upgrade your room. Mm-hmm. You switch around the paintings.
Yeah,
that are around there.
No, I didn't do any of that.
Just nonsense. Stuff I didn't care about at all. Because I didn't care about that, I had tons of gloss. So when I found like a Magneto was right shirt, I was like, yeah, I can buy that. I could spend it, but it sucks that you're buying it twice. It sucks that there isn't a differentiation with reward. So you can do like a tough thing, get a chest, and it's very rare that you just get gloss or just get a costume. Usually you'll get something that plays into the tactics as well. Like you'll get a consumable. Mm-hmm. I really like the consumables in this game. I think they're really additive. But you'll get a consumable that you can add to a battle. But it'll suck to do a really important task and get a color palette for a character you don't use, a bunch of gloss, and then a minor consumable. Like the reward doesn't feel good, and you have to buy it twice.
I also I got to the point towards the end of the game where I had apparently unlocked all of the palettes for all of the costumes that I had unlocked. So like I remember going through and like because I was trying to like clear some trophy for opening a chest or something, and so like I was opening chest and just a legendary like super duper chest like that looked important. It was like 75 gloss because I had like there was nothing else to give me at that point. And as soon as I unlocked like another outfit for somebody and I went back to a chest, it would then give me palettes for that outfit. So it's just a really dumb reward system. Like it reminded me of like Bloodborne a whole lot.
It's extremely video game.
Yeah,
it's like very loot boxy video game. Fortnite inspired. Like you're getting a new emote, that kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
That I just doesn't connect with me. We spent like a lot of the last like 15 minutes complaining, and it's weird because the bad things of this game are really complicated and annoying, and the good things are harder to talk about because it's just like, oh yeah, but we're talking about all this shit. In between, you are doing the bulk of the game, which is really, really great, deep strategy shit.
Yes.
That's just like incredible, like makes it worth it. So like, even though we can damn this shit with faint praise, like I enjoyed searching for secrets in the overworld, even if the rewards were not very good. I enjoyed the weird, obscure pulls in the outfits. I enjoyed some of the dialogue because it was goofy. All that pales in comparison to just like doing a new battle, which I did all the time. And you can kind of pace yourself by doing those side missions. Like the game starts with a really long tutorial where they don't let you go. Once they let you go, I did like 5 side missions in a row. Cause like, I don't want to hear no more about no story. I just need to play in this combat system for a while. And it was just like in those moments, it was some of my favorite game playing I did this year. Just like absolutely incredibly fun.
I almost bounced during the tutorial because I was so annoyed by the talking, and I was like, when you sit down to play a video game, like I feel like my time is precious to me. I know your time is precious to me because your time is not precious to me. I don't care about your time. Your time is precious to you.
Your time is precious to me.
Well, that's sweet.
I vote for you.
But it's one of those where you like sit down and you're like, oh, you guys are just not letting me play the actual game. You're so busy showing me stuff like that I just don't care about it. Like it just went on for a long time, and like I like picked up another video game very, very briefly, and then you kept getting more into it, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna sit down and like, and I had to sit down and like get through that first part. And as soon as I got to the daily rhythm of like, I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna look at my cards, I'm gonna upgrade my abilities, I'm gonna to do another mission, I'm going to go hang out with somebody, I'm going to go fishing with Iron Man, I'm going to go playing badminton with Wolverine, whatever that is. And then that whole cycle really, really got to me. Like I liked that loop a whole lot once we got into it.
Yeah.
And I did the same thing you did, where I was like, I don't care about the story at all. Like I want to run through all of the side missions. I'm having fun doing that. I don't care about any of the story stuff whatsoever.
It takes a minute to get there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, and then once you get there, like after you've kind of had your fill, it becomes fun to do story missions because you unlock new shit.
Yes.
For the main game. Like I was doing story missions because I wanted new characters. You know, ultimately I ended up crafting my own rhythm with this that really worked, but I think that it's a game that you have to take a lot of authorship over your experience. Like if you just think that I need to do everything, if you're a completionist, like you might not have a good time with it. If you don't feel comfortable driving, you know.
Yeah.
I felt very comfortable like picking out my proportions.
Sure. That makes sense.
Of things. And that ended up making it work for me. Before we move on completely from like story stuff, I want to say that like, while most of it I liked ironically, there are a couple of character beats I thought were genuinely really good.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of surprising. I really like, so there are these clubs that your characters go in. There are 3 clubs and every character goes into a club and you're in every club. So like the magic characters are in a club, the old school Avengers are in a club, and then the tech geeks are in a club. And the tech geek club, the shop class, has a really nice little story for Iron Man.
Yes.
Like, which I wouldn't expect, but like it genuinely like a really nice character beat for him, I thought. Like it's not, you don't got to hand it to the entire game for this stuff. Like it's not mind blowing. It's not like it made me cry, you know. Mm-hmm. It's not Gone Home, but a very nice little character beat for it. So I want to give that kind of shout out. Like I was surprised.
And I want to.
Like, this works.
I was going to mention the book club. Not because there's any good character beats in it, but because it is just the most like fucking David Lynch ass ridiculous shit that I've ever seen in my life. I think it's the last one that you do.
It is
with Wolverine, where he recommends some like action thing, and they just sit there and talk about this. I was streaming it and people were watching it, and it just didn't end. Like they just kept going, saying the most like inane things about this book. And it like, and the idea that the only reason we have a book club is because Blade wanted an excuse to hang out with Carol Danvers so they could hold hands in one day is already in the back of your head. And you just hear them repeat. And then like Captain America is so fucking sincere and serious about this stuff. Like he's genuinely trying to take like a valuable tactical lesson from this.
His body, like the Captain America model is so funny. They make my boy is very sick. Like when Liv came in and watched me, like the first thing she said, she's like, "Oh no!" Like when she saw Captain America, because his shoulders are as wide as like some people are tall. You know, like he's like a real block guy. And for some reason, every time she sat down to watch me, it was Captain America punching a dog in combat. and she's like, "Why is Captain America punching that dog?" And I'm like, "He fucking hates dogs, dude."
I had a
Captain America hates a mutt.
I had a funny thing because Autumn would come in the room, and as much as we're talking about like, you know, it's kind of an even split between the combat stuff and the social stuff and things like that. But Autumn would like, for whatever reason, would only show up in the room while I was playing, while I'm doing social stuff. So she was convinced it was just a dating sim. She was like, "This doesn't have like, you're not fighting anybody. What are you doing? Like this, like, is this the Sims Avengers edition?" And I was like, I don't know.
Why is Iron Man flying around and shooting stuff?
And then
this is weird that he's just saying you're talking about therapy.
Exactly. Why is he talking about his dad so much? Jesus Christ.
Jesus, like,
it's very funny. And so and then I would finally get to a combat. I'd be like, "Look, combat," and she's like, "Jeremy, there's nobody. You're not even holding the controller right now, like because it's a turn-based game." So I was like, "Well, I mean, but there's a lot of strategy to it, Autumn."
The grand arc of the story, it's like the main story that you go through, is really stock. You know, like the non-side stuff, but the actual chosen one, Lilith, your mom coming back, destroying the world. It's very stock. If it were a comic, I think it would be a pretty good comic if it were paced well, like a 6-issue comic. You know, like I think it'd be pretty fine.
Yeah.
Like perfectly cromulent
Mm-hmm.
As a thing. As it is, it ends up being a little cliche. And this is a spoiler for the end game. I was bummed out that at the end, the characters who you had maxed out your affinity with are the characters you could use. That end up having a big place in the ending. So like there were characters that I used that I really liked that I didn't get to use at all in the ending.
Oh, really?
Like
Okay.
Wolverine did not show up.
Yeah, Wolverine did not show up.
Like I liked him, you know, I built him up, but he didn't show up in the first wave or the second wave. And was basically doing like a Wolverine build. Like I was bringing Wolverine on all my missions. He was my tank. And he doesn't show up. Like they take that out of your hands in order to tie the social stuff to the gameplay stuff. And I don't think that totally works.
Yeah, it's weird because for most of the story missions, even when there's like multiple squads of people that you're going to be taking, you get to see ahead of time like what those squads are going to be, and you can kind of plan your decks, right? Like you have the moment that you can kind of go through and be like, oh, I'm going to do this. And the way they set up the final mission, like they flag it real well. I mean, they basically just literally pop up a thing that says this is the final mission.
Yeah, do your stuff.
But they don't really tell you anything about who's going to be there. And I think it's because they want to pull the rug out from underneath you. What ends up happening is like I'm in a situation where it's me and Nico fighting like 18 monsters, and Nico is not
not up for this.
She is not. Her deck is not ready for this, and we made it through. Like that was, you know, the last battle I thought actually did really well. Like I thought it was weirdly balanced because of all of like the extra benefits that they give you throughout the way. Like I kind of dug the way they handled that, but like bringing all of the social stuff into that and making it almost like you know, the power of friendship kind of situation is just, it felt so weird. Like as I was playing the last mission, I guess this is like, you know, tune out if you were super sensitive about these kind of things, but it felt very like Dark Phoenix, where all of the X-Men had to like talk to Jean or whatever about being being besties, and then it just, I don't know, it was just such a weird experience having that show up in like, and I'm punching a dog to get heroism points. I don't know.
It does. I'm glad that ended as it began, with punching dogs. You punch a lot of dogs in this game, if that's your tag. The last thing, you know, because I'm running out of things to say about it without going beat by beat through it, which will be for like WoF if we ever do that, you know. But something that I really like about this game, you mentioned the difficulty balance at the end. I love how this game handles difficulty. You start out on normal, and it gives you the option, if you're doing well, to be like, hey, do you want to bump up the difficulty? Like it will get a little harder, but you'll get much better rewards. And it's not condescending. It's not taunting you into it. And it's one of the rare games on my first playthrough I ended up playing on easier or harder than normal.
Really?
Like usually on my first clear, I'm like, I have nothing to prove. I'm just going to play normal.
Yeah.
But I ended up bumping it up 2 levels. I was on like heroic plus or whatever. And it maintained the challenge. And the game was really good at like giving me the option, not trying to guilt me, you know, not big timing me about it.
Yeah.
And letting you change back if like something was hard. You know, it just gives you control. Again, like this is a very self-piloted experience to have the best time. And the difficulty is part of that. And I really like that. It's like, this will get slightly harder, but you're also going to level up much faster.
Yes.
You know, it's actually ends up being a generous. Like if you were playing to see more of the game and get more resources and do more of this stuff, you can have that in exchange for not a very big cost in difficulty.
I didn't engage with any of that at all. Like I played on normal the entire time through. Like, and there were a couple of times where like I'd almost lost out on a mission altogether and had to restart the encounter. And being like the weird strategy game that it is, like as soon as I would restart, I'd like, oh, and like here's the card combination. I just wiped it on the first turn or whatever. And I had to
yeah.
But I'm interested. I think when I still haven't really decided. Like I finished the last mission and then I was like, I'm going to go back and do some side missions. And then it's like, or I could play a new video game that I've never played before.
There's always a new video game.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to like play around with that stuff as the DLCs come out. If I go back to the DLC, the one big thing that I think we haven't talked about that I think needs to be talked about are the outfits in this game, which are 95%, maybe not even 98% fucking awful. Like just
it's amazing. You look like a nightmare in this game,
dude. It
like
is.
You can't. It's really hard to look cool.
It is. It is impossibly. it's you're I don't know if they just didn't want them to use specific outfits from the comic books, like the idea, or maybe like they were leaning on the palettes to be like your rewards, that they wanted to make more generic outfits in order to be able to use random colors. But I mean, just across the board, they're almost all just ugly, absolutely hideous outfits, like just bad. Why not? You're like, Spider-Man has 18 million suits that are cool. We saw this in the Spider-Man video game. Like, why not use some of those?
Yeah, like I could always find something that looked fine. I never found anything that looked badass for almost anybody, and all the unlockables are embarrassing as hell. Like when you get an unlockable outfit, like some of which you spend real money for, which like I'm not going to do, some of which you unlock through your friendship bonuses, they're awful. Yeah. The Magic one is horrible, and she ended up being one of my favorite characters. Like Magic and Wolverine were my crew, with Hunter, and it looks awful, like just absolutely hideous. There's a lot of hideosity.
The Magic's like Midnight Sun one is just terrible. I didn't get to this in the game because I didn't level up Cap enough. But I guess in that last mission, they put everybody in their Midnight Sun outfit regardless. Dude. And Cap having his shield where the little A is, just having like a little fire generator coming out, is the dumbest and wildest thing I've ever seen in my entire fucking life.
Everything looks like a pyrotechnics display.
Yeah, they really lean into that fire and metal, like it's fire and chrome kind of thing.
Really silly. Exceedingly silly for Captain America. Like, it's just not a good look.
I will say,
everybody wearing that fucking outfit.
The game is weirdly self-aware though, because I'd leveled up Doctor Strange and his outfit didn't have a cloak, which made him look like he just had like this incredibly like curved back to ass thing happening, and I'm like, you were working this without a cloak. And then in the final mission, like everybody shows up in their Midnight Suns outfit and they're commenting on it. They're saying like, oh, like, you know, we wanted to dress as a team for the first time, and you hear Doctor Strange in the background go, is there a cloak for mine?
Yeah,
it's very funny.
Like shit, man. Like, it's a really bad looking team.
Yeah.
I love a team look, but like black, gold, and on fire.
Yeah.
As a color scheme is ridiculous. This plays into your main guy too, which like has hilarious options because you unlock other cosmetic things like styles of beard and hairstyle and stuff through this as well. So the character creator is very limited. Like, it feels like it's from 2008 when you start off. Like, you compare it to something where you can like change the cheekbones and eyebrow depth and shit like that. It's very, very limited. And you just make goofy ass dudes and goofy ass ladies in this. I need to play it. If I do New Game Plus, I wonder if it'll let me swap the gender, because I want to hear the lady voice acting. The guy voice acting is fucking amazing. Like, hello, like he's constantly, he sounds like a 50s educational video a little bit. You know,
see, I need to do the same thing. I need to switch because I played as the lady, and the lady is very like kind of husky and flirty with everything, and like, oh man, Blade, are you telling me that you hunted vampires? Like that kind of situation. It's very funny.
The male would go, Blade, are you telling me you hunted vampires? Like, everything was like that. There's a meme about it because you have a dog in this. You have a hellhound named Charlie. And one of the things that happens when you click on Charlie, he goes like, who is a good girl? It is my Charlie girl. And the way, like, again, Liv kept walking in during this when I was petting the dog, and he straight up just like, who is a good girl? It is my Charlie girl. Like, it's so fucking funny.
That's like, fucking hilarious, dude.
What is goth? Like, it works with the story. Like, you're an unfrozen caveman, basically.
I screenshot the what is a goth conversation because it was just like some of the random dialogue that you would see and that is one of them. Like, Nico tried to ask like the hunter, like, are you a goth? And she's like, what is a goth?
What is a goth? Yeah. It's very funny. And I'm looking forward to just seeing those, like, after this break. They're doing the DLC. So there's 4 characters they're adding. They're adding new story content as well, but they're adding Deadpool, Morbius, Storm, and Venom.
Yes,
I think is the 4th one. And I'm looking forward to that. I want to see how they all play, but I'm also really looking forward to my shitty little starman interfacing like, you are a goddess. What is Africa?
What is in Africa?
Tell me about lightning.
But the funniest thing in the entire game to me was a conversation with Nico, where the hunter is asking Nico about like how her spells work, and she's like explaining like the history of Nico, and she says, I think the hunter says like, has it ever gone wrong? She's like, oh yeah, absolutely. One time for my niece's birthday, I summoned her favorite cartoon characters, and instead of just arriving and like having a good time, they showed up as exotic dancers, and like your hunter is like, oh my god, and like it's very apparent that it's SpongeBob characters, and your hunter's like, oh my god, did it work out okay? She's like, yeah, it was fine, but like the octopus clearly did not want to be there, and I just shit like that just slayed me, dude. Like that was the stuff that kept me wanting to go back and like talk to the characters, but it's
there's some funny shit.
Yeah,
there.
I think you know, you said it earlier. Like I think I love this game, even with all of the weird problems and issues. It's very janky. Like I played this right after coming from the new God of War game, which is like the epitome of AAA polished, super like amazing looking versus this. And it was a little bit of an adjustment, but like once you get past some of the jankiness, like I think there's a lot to love there. So.
I read a review of this that stuck in my head where somebody said it was a 2012 masterpiece stuck in 2023 or 2022, and I like that a lot.
Yeah,
for it, like that is what it feels like to me. I really loved it. It was a great choice for my like. I got ahead on work and I'm on winter break. I'm gonna treat myself to a fun game. I was no regrets.
Yeah. I could. I definitely want a sequel. I'll buy all the DLC. I just want all of the things for it because I want more of this game. I want more X-Men as more than anything. I just really want more X-Men in this. So
it really made me want. Like I was looking forward to it before, but the Insomniac Wolverine game that's coming out, I'm very excited. Like we are in a really good time for superhero video games.
Yes,
actually. When the MCU first started, we were in a horrible time for it. Like that Thor video game, that Captain America game, like those are all awful. With Spider-Man and now this, like I feel like we're finally getting there.
There's a legion of people out there reminding you that about that Avengers game and that Guardian of the Galaxy game that just came out that some people seem to really like, but that I found both of them absolutely atrocious. So
I picked up the Guardians game for super cheap, but I haven't played it. I haven't played the Avengers game either. But those are I was counting the Avenger or the Guardians game as in the good pile because of my reputation, but I haven't played it.
Yeah, I mean, I keep hearing good things, but like I was bored of that thing within the first 2 chapters. So
and that Avengers game, like I've been mildly tempted by just because you fight AIM and you got Miss Marvel and stuff, and that's cool. But I've been scared off it.
It's it is very exciting, like being Miss Marvel in that for like that was the point that like right after you or Miss Marvel was the point where I was like, oh, like you want me to just grind these missions like this is some sort of like Destiny game or something,
live service bullshit.
Yeah. I had no interest in doing some of that stuff.
That's a similar thing to what Midnight Suns has, where like its best stuff is intruded by video game ass shit.
Yeah,
like the loot boxes, the cosmetics, the millions of currencies. Like to have these licenses now, we're only going to get these games in huge AAA releases that have to have video game shit in them, and it's kind of a bummer. Gone are the days where a smaller studio could get a video game license and you can get weird but good shit like Ultimate Destruction or like the PS2 Punisher game, which is like legitimately super cool. It's just, but you would never make it now. It's all about feeding people's heads into wood chippers and shit.
Yeah.
Like it's surprisingly accurate.
It's horrible. I was actually kind of looking forward to that Suicide Squad game, and then they just like showed some screenshots of that being kind of like a grind fest as well. And I'll still probably like look into that and see what it is. But like that kind of stuff, I just
Gotham Knights.
Everybody
hated that.
Man, I just downloaded a demo of that. Sony was like, "Do you want to play this for an hour?" And I was like, "I've got fast internet. Yes, let's check that out." But
sure.
I downloaded it, so I'm going to try that for like a little while tomorrow and see how it is, but I'm not looking forward to that specifically being good.
It's a sad thing because talking to Will about it, Will reviewed it, and he had played it, and like I'm kind of in the market for worse Arkham. Like it's been a minute since I played an Arkham game, and like kind of shitty Arkham does sound fun to me, but it doesn't. I'm like, yeah, but I could also just go back and replay one of the ones I only played once.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like if I want shitty Arkham, I'll play Arkham Origins or I'll play Arkham Knight.
Yeah.
So it's maybe I need to pump the brakes a little bit. We're not in like a good golden age for superhero games.
Yeah, there's just been two.
We've got
good
a couple
ones.
good franchises. There's some good stuff on the horizon, possibly.
I keep forgetting about that Insomniac Wolverine game. Like I just keep forgetting that it exists, and I'm just so curious about it, like what that could possibly look like, given the.
And so fucking and Spider-Man 2 is going to come out, and I'm fucking psyched about that. Like. Every once in a while, I remember those games came out. Those are miracles.
Sony had
like Spider-Man.
The PlayStation Twitter account had a tweet that was like, "Here's the things to look forward to on your PS5 system," and it was like January this and February that and March this, and it's like sometime in fall Spider-Man 2. I was like, "Oh, okay."
Sometime.
It's funny.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for listening, everybody.
Thanks everybody for listening.
We're gonna get out of here. If you want to support the network, you can always go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv to do so. There's been some cool changes. There's some additional new content. So go
welcome Gwen.
Welcome Gwen, absolutely. To the network, I guess. She's going to be doing some producing and some guest hosting and hosting the new podcast that's on the $10 tier. I believe. Quackstack. So go check out all of the tiers. Go check out all the exclusive content. Join up in the Slack to go hang out with some fellow Duckfeed nerds. Join the new Facebook page. Do all of that stuff. Talk about us. Don't talk about us on Twitter because Twitter fucking sucks now. But talk about us anywhere else that you want to talk about us.
Yes. Yeah, I won't see it, but no longer on Twitter.
Let your stepdad. We're low on stepdads for this podcast. If you're a stepdad, shout out. Let us know.
Yeah, we're looking for that stepdad market.
Yes, absolutely.
So take care, everybody. We'll be back with more Rick Remender X-Force, Uncanny X-Force.
Bye.